some foreign funds are a bit anxious over, you know, any further dramatic political changes, and I think the man in the street too, in case you have another circuit breaker that is triggered, or there's something that surprises them. How do you think, Raymond, that investors should look at the current political environment?
Well, I think if you look at whether whoever becomes the government, I think we'll say it's all parties are pro-business, and I think that those policies will continue if it's in the good of the country, and that's what the message has been brought out, that it must be for the benefit of the country, and not just for a select group or select individuals. On the other way, you have to look at it also, will the opposition make a challenge to form a new government? Now, this is my own personal view. I think that the opposition, the current opposition, does not have enough depth within their lineup to form the government. And taking on to form the government, they could be biting on more than they could chew, right? Because they're already having difficulties and managing the stakes well, right? And to take on the government, I think that it could be stretching themselves way too thin.
Do you agree with Beng Ling's point on this political headwinds, that if I read you correctly, that this anticipation of political changes or may not change, and it may hold back investment in the market?
Yes, in a way I do agree, because it's not a change in the government yet, but it's a change that we lost a supermajority, and it's somewhat of a milestone in Malaysian politics. Unlike, like you say, in countries like Thailand or Philippines, where they're so used to changing governments, right? Ours, we are not. So that's why investors will look at it that we have no experience or no memory of such a change, compared with Thailand, where when the Thai coup came in, it was business as usual. The market, I checked it, was down only like 10 points or 13 points, because everybody knew what to do during that kind of changes, right? So I would expect, as time moves on, we will form the kind of opinion for foreigners. What the foreigners were telling us is that they were very surprised that and very pleased that handover, there was no problems in handover the state governments. There was no unrest on the streets. There were no massive demonstrations. It shows some sort of political maturity on both sides, that they accept the change. They might not like it, but they accept it.
Okay, I guess we can't run away from politics at this time. The market requires some political analysis more than before. But on a more purely economic viewpoint on stagflation, this time the inflation is not the sort where you probably get an interest rate hike from the central bank, because that may not bring down inflation, because these are all commodities induced. How big a problem do you see? Do you find it that it would reduce overall consumption and thereby be a burden on economic growth, Beng Ling?
I think if I look at, before we even move to consumption spending, I think consumption spending inevitably will be affected at some point in time. But if I look at the latest export numbers, I'm actually quite concerned, because that almost 20% drop in electronics exports. That, after all, is our largest sector in the economy. So I mean, and with oil price having gone up to the way it is, and with the increase in a lot of food inflation, I think inflation is going to be a problem.
Do you find manufacturing still a very big part of the economy?
Yeah, I think manufacturing.
Because I think I've seen a CLSA report saying that the two oils probably form 70%. I don't know. It was very high of value added in the economy.
As far as the
Not as
GDP
high.
is concerned, I believe manufacturing
about
would still be the largest sector of the economy.
Yeah.
And I think, like Ting Bu was saying just now, I think it is, when I started work 20 years ago as an economist, we talk about the structural problems with Malaysia. And then today, I mean, we can say that 20 years is not a short time. We are still facing the same issues. But the world is dynamic. Malaysia is not close. Meanwhile, people like China, India, Vietnam, they have gone ahead. I think, which is why if we look over the longer term, I think this election result is really, the last election result is a cry for change. Similarly, this election result is also a cry for change. So, you know, it can be a very positive development, you know, if the cry is heard and acted upon. So I also agree personally with Raymond that I think this election result is probably a very good solution, in the sense that the opposition may not have the depth, they may not be ready to form a government yet, but it's a very strong message that we have sent to the ruling party, that the electorate has sent to the ruling party, and at the same time the opposition is also given a chance of a few states to run it, you know. So I think hopefully this could really, this cannot be a 6 months, cannot be a 1 year, 2 year thing, you know. Hopefully over the longer term, this produce positive changes for the economy, which is, you know, I think what everybody who voted in this election hopes for.
The manufacturing exports has been weaker from Malaysia compared with other regional countries. One of the problems could be that Malaysia has not moved up the value chain, as opposed to, say, you know, you have a Hon Hai in Taiwan. To what extent do you think, you know, is this a problem, and, you know, can the private sector actually deal with this, or the government?
I think if you look as what we've discussed just now, manufacturing forms about 30% of the GDP, and of course it's a major concern. And I think you got to look at the problem from a wider scope. It's not confined to just orders not coming in alone, but you must look at what are the structural things have you done, structural changes that could be done to boost this more participation from foreign investors. Basically, if you look at the Malaysian education system, I think that is one of the main grouses mentioned by these foreign investors, mainly because we do not have the talented pool of workers that they require. Because when you move along the value chain, the manufacturing sector, there are certain skills required, and that is one of the reasons they've highlighted. And apart from that, I think incentive, we have adequate incentive to attract them. Right? You need a talented pool of people, and there must be drive from the government itself on what is the next stage of action they're going to take to progress further in the manufacturing sector. We don't have the concrete blue map, right? Where are we heading going forward? I think that's one of the key reasons. And I think over the last 5 or 6 years, the concentration on manufacturing has shifted. People are talking about this agriculture a lot, right? We're paying a lot of attention on agriculture, and there's not much effort has been made on the manufacturing side, even on the top, from the top. So I think that is one of the factors we can look at. And apart from that, the ringgit strengthening, if you look at over the last 2 years or 3 years, ever since we removed the peg, there was some artificial complacency because of the peg. Manufacturers were enjoying a good exchange rate because most of them sell in US dollars. So once the peg was removed and the ringgit was strengthening, many of them were hit badly because they are not, cost-wise, they are not very efficient to compete with the rest of the world. Because if you look at the labor costs, we are not that cheap compared to China. And if you look at other infrastructures, like very simple thing like broadband, this is a very important element when you do business to transfer information, data. And although we claim that we have some of the household 1 megabits per second, 2 megabits per second, but when you download, you don't get that speed, right? You may have 1 megabits per second speed, but when you download, at the max you get 54, 55. So I think information is key. I mean, you can't transfer information in a very effective way. That partly affects the whole system as well.
It may have affected this business process outsourcing
yes, to a certain extent.
industry as well.
Yes.